Hey guys, welcome back to the shop. We're going to make another set of scales for that paring knife. The set that we made, it was a good test. I'll use them, like I will all of these, on something, but not this knife. The green didn't come out quite like I liked it. I put a little too much green in it. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to burn another set real quick, and we're going to get this paring knife made. I need to make some micarta. We'll do that in a later video. But I appreciate y'all being here. Thanks for watching. And let's get right to it. guys, so here's where we are. We got us a basic shape of our paring knife, stock removal done. I just used I used my 1/4 inch pneumatic angle grinder and a Scotch-Brite pad, and I think that's kind of the finish we're going to leave on that blade. I mean, it's not a show knife, it's a paring knife. Now we could make it real shiny and pretty, and I may do a little more to it to clean it up a little better, but I kind of like that. I kind of like that look, but we'll see. But the handle is shaped up fairly nicely there. So we're ready now, and I think it'll work pretty good as a paring knife. You know, you're cutting your potatoes, or you're slicing on the board, or you know, it's about the right length and everything. I think the blade is maybe a little over 3 inches. You don't need much more than that for a paring knife. Now the major thing we're up against here is we've got all these different scales. These are some of the earlier ones that I did that were supposed to be green, and you can see here where it overlapped onto the board. It's almost clear. It sucked most of the green right out of it. The only reason this in here is dark at all is because that's where the fractal burn is, so it's black underneath. So I don't believe we'll be using those ones. Then we've got this set here. We used pearl in them, and they could be ground down to where they look a little better, but there's no translucency to them. You can't even see the burn inside. This stuff is solid color, so I'm not too sure about those. Then we've got this set here. This was the second to the last set that I did. They came out fairly well. You can see some air bubbles that came up in here because I got a little too wild with the heat gun. But these can be ground off a little bit and cleaned up. But they're not terrible. I'm not sure. I mean, once you grind this down, again, where the fractal burn is, it's just basically going to look black. So even though the green color stayed, because we used a different resin, the green stayed. Where it's just on the wood, you can still see it's real pretty, kind of a green, well, not the green I would like, but kind of a blue-green. But not bad overall. The color is pretty good, and the blue part of the green stayed, because if you'll remember from our previous videos, we were having a hard time getting the green, the blue to stay in the green, because it takes blue and yellow, correct? So like with this set of scales here, our blue pretty much all left the green, and it's hard to tell on this wood, but this is kind of a yellow tint to it, where the yellow kind of stayed but the blue left, and it just left us with this yellowy looking stuff here that really really isn't green at all. The only, like I say, the only reason this is dark in here whatsoever is because it's black. I mean, that's char under there. That's where the fractal burn is. And then this is the last set that I've done. Now this set has a pretty nice green color in it, and we got some real deep fractal burns in there. This is the set that we just poured in this video, but it's not quite translucent enough. You can't really see down in there. So what I'm thinking we may do is we'll cut these to fit on our tang, and then I'm going to grind the back off until I get into the resin, which shouldn't take very much because these fractal burns on these are pretty deep. Once I've gotten into the resin and exposed the resin on the back of this to where you can see through it, I'm thinking maybe we crinkle up some aluminum, straighten it out, some aluminum foil, then straighten it back out, and use it back here, or I do have some thin aluminum because I haven't made any micarta for scale liners, and I was thinking maybe I could take some of that thin aluminum that I have, polish it up real nice, and use the aluminum for a scale liner, and I could kind of put a pattern in it, you know what I mean, in the aluminum, so that it looks kind of swirly or something, like with the Scotch-Brite pad. Cat's coming out to say hello. And then I think that you would be able to, because this is fairly translucent, but again, against that dark char, you really can't see down into it, because that dark black char in that fractal burn just makes it look like it's solid. So we're going to take these scales and kind of grind the back off of them and get into that resin and see if some kind of type of aluminum foil or something on the back of that will reflect the light so you can see into these. So let's go try that. So you can see we've gotten into the stuff on the back, and as you can see through it, and it's green now. How cool is that? We might have finally figured out a way to bring out the green in this, and I think if we put some aluminum, crinkled up aluminum foil behind this, I think that'll look pretty good. Be careful with your fingers around 40 grit on your belt grinder, because it will take a pretty good chunk of meat off of there if you're not careful. Which I wasn't. You would think, as much as I preach about being safe in your shop and everything, that I would maybe practice a little bit of what I preach, right? But yeah, that took off a nice, shaved off a real nice piece of skin right there. So I think that this here is going to work out. Look at how you can see through that now that we shaved the back of it off. And that'll look even better. We'll polish this up now. We'll use some real fine sandpaper with the other sander. I'm gonna have to go get a Band-Aid, I guess, and make that even more clear, because you see that's all rough from sanding, but you can still see through that quite well. We clean that up and clean this front off and polish that, and that's going to look really nice, I think. So I'm going to go get a Band-Aid and we'll be back. Well, okay guys, I think we're going to call it good for today for this part. Running out of daylight, and I got paperwork and things to do for work tomorrow and what have you. So, but here's how our knife is shaped up. Like I say on this blade, I'm not sure what we'll do. I may leave that finish on it, or I may go ahead and maybe make it a little shinier. I'm not sure. And then we got our scales ground down on the back side, so you can see through them. So this will be the front of the scale. Of course, this will get shaped and ground after it's on the knife, but that way you can see into them. But even on the knife, you can't see into them very well. But we're going to put a piece of tin foil behind there, and that will allow it to be bright enough in there that we can kind of see through it. Still, you'll be able to see the depth of the pour in there, which we couldn't do before because it was all black. So I've got both of these ground off, so we can see through the fractal burn now. And like I say, I got the back side here is this is where the back was, where the burn went down through from this side about pretty deep, and then I had to grind the back of the wood off to meet the resin here. But I think this is more what we're looking for. Trying to pour a resin pour in just a black fractal burn is, you have to just use like a solid pearl color, I believe, because the black, it's just not going to, it's not going to be very translucent. Even on my stools, when I poured those, it's all right, but it's a whole different type of fractal burn too. So we're getting it figured out. We'll get these scales in the next video. We'll try to finish these scales up, get them put on the knife, and get the knife completed. So I sure appreciate y'all being here today with me. I started this video like 2 weeks ago, and then between work and family things and what have you we had going on, I didn't work on it last weekend. So it's been 2 weeks since I started it, and we finished up today with working on these scales a little bit and shaping, getting our shape on our knife. I think this will make a nice little paring knife. It's a nice shape. Blade, like I say, it's probably 3 inches or so. That's going to be nice to cut up potatoes and, you know, prepare dinner and whatever it is you need to do with a paring knife. So get out to your shop, do something, have some fun, you know, fix something, clean something. There's always something to do out in your shop. If you got the time, take a little time, get out there and have some fun, let your cares roll off of your back, and always be safe. You saw what I did today. I really wasn't being haphazard with but I had the scale up here like this, and of course I was standing more with my back this way. But what I did was I let my finger, as I was holding these scales, I let my finger get up against that planting, and with a 40 grit, I mean, that just took a touch, and it just took a big piece of meat right off the end of my finger. So I finished these with a pair of gloves on, and then I flattened them out on my little flat sander here to get them a little flatter and smoother. So it only takes one little mess up to. This is really going to hurt tomorrow and probably most of the week at work. This is my shifting hand in the truck, so it pays to use. I put gloves on and finished those on here. Now this one down here doesn't turn near that fast. This is like a buzz saw. That turns a lot slower, so it didn't really require me to have gloves on and what have you. So, but I love that new shield I got. Wear your mask. Just do whatever you can with it, you know, to try to keep yourself safe when you're working in your shop. So I really appreciate y'all being here. Thanks to everybody who subscribed. If you haven't subscribed, I'm going to put a couple of little I'll put a subscribe button in the end of this video and a couple of little videos you can click on if you want to watch some more of my videos. So thanks everybody. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you on the next one.